welcome to Rough Cut Film Review. This is a review of Dallas Buyers Club. So this was actually released in 2013. Apologies, I've just got around to reviewing it, but I thought it was worth a mention. I do remember the days where Matthew McConaughey starring in a film used to mean I'd run from the hills. He tended to be in rom-coms or subpar action films, and if you remember, he used to lean a lot on the poster. He used to be leaning against things, whether it was a woman or a wall or whatever. Skip forward a few years and he's been in Killer Joe, he's been in Magic Mike, and he's completely turned my view of him on its head. And now after all these good films, I think he's a really wonderful actor. But looking back, there was nothing, when he was in Sahara, for example, there was nothing to make me think, hey, this guy is going to be really fantastic in this film Mud. So it's really incredible just how much he's turned around in my esteem. So again, here, Dallas Buyers Club, he's really good, and so is Jennifer Gardner, who again hasn't been great in everything, and Jared Leto is absolutely startlingly good as a transsexual. I think that's the correct terminology. Apologies if not. So McConaughey is plot-wise, he's a straight electrician set in the early 80s. He's got an excellent moustache. He's basically a good old boy. He does rodeo in his spare time. He likes to drink lots. He likes to sleep with women that he doesn't necessarily love, but he just wants to be intimate with them. Across the board, he has a very carnal existence of casual sex with the ladies. He drinks, he smokes, he does drugs, basically a life well lived. Aside from that, he's also sexist, racist, homophobic. He's a good old boy. His lifestyle soon catches up with him, and he finds out that he's got the HIV virus, and the film is uplifting in a rather hopeless kind of a way, and it demonstrates one man's struggles against an at best negligent medical system and at worst one that is willfully negligent. Very soon his friends find out he's got HIV. They shun him because, of course, back then it was considered to be the gay illness, so they thought, oh no, he's got the cooties or whatever it is, but basically, he is no longer a good old boy. And very sadly, I think it probably goes a very long way to explain why so little was done for so long, that HIV and AIDS were considered for gay people and degenerates and all this kind of thing. I think if a few more high profile, well liked people had caught the virus, though, something might have been done faster. Who knows? I'm speculating wildly, and I didn't want to get into this in a review, so I'll skip that. It's also probably worth mentioning that a lot of people sort of seem to think that HIV and AIDS were a punishment from God for a wicked lifestyle, which is quite frankly astonishing, but there we are. So Matthew McConaughey, sexist, homophobic, misogynistic, forms an unlikely alliance between Rayon, which is Jared Leto's transvestite character, and his sister, who is a doctor who happens to look like Jennifer Gardner, but actually in fairness she is really good, but she's just very pretty. She becomes sort of frustrated with this system, and we get all these disparate people, and it's people that wouldn't necessarily have talked to each other, working together to try and provide some sort of drugs and some kind of completely unregistered medical care, that because they are being so badly let down by the system. So the film is a very interesting one, and it's an interesting mix of different bits and pieces that all comes together really nicely. It walks a really fine line between a story of someone somewhat succeeding against the odds, personal empowerment, but also against the backdrop of the futility of trying to make a difference on a ticking clock, which of course HIV and AIDS, particularly in the early 80s, was a death sentence. And it's worth mentioning, of course, that McConaughey's character would have had absolutely nothing to do with a lot of the people and a lot of the things that he does later in the film had he not been diagnosed with the illness. He's not a good Samaritan so much as an absolutely desperate person who wants to live a bit longer. He wants to stay in the light a little bit longer, and he'll do what it takes to. It's apparently based on a true story. I'm not entirely sure how much of it's true. I get the sense probably quite a lot, but professional as I am, I've not gone away and researched it. But it's a very sensitive subject that's handled really, really well. A lot of the characters, particularly Jared Leto's, sort of stereotypes are not very interesting, but they're played really sympathetically, really interestingly, and you get a sense that he is actually a person and not just a transvestite, and there's a very interesting distinction there. So it's actually a film of largely unlikable characters, but in there's a lot of sweetness, and sweetness you wouldn't necessarily expect. It's not going to be for everyone. It doesn't necessarily have the kind of happy ending that you would have in other genres of films. It's hard going and there is very little light at the end of the tunnel, but there are moments in there which are absolutely magical. So yeah, very much recommended. McConaughey goes on to make another great film. Jennifer Gardiner's good. Jared Leto's really good. Hey, good stuff. Bit long, but I say that about everything. Kind regards, Christopher Thomas.